Surprisingly, we are live. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Every Point's a Winner, or as a lot of people classify it as Epaw. I've got the Canterbury colours on there. The Bulldogs, blue and white, shining all around the place at the moment on the ceiling. And wifey from heaven, I'm sure she'd be very, very happy with the Bulldogs at the moment. Unfortunately, I think there was a bad injury out of that game on the weekend, the Women in League round 10, that we're going to go over today on Every Point's a Winner. I think they have found in the scans he's got maybe 3 fractures to an ankle. He may be out for a long part of the season. Very, very sad. They're really battling now after Jacob lost his appeal, Jacob Preston, and he's out for a while. Wow. Luckily, they have Kurt Mann, Kurt Moran, some players of very, very long experience. They may be a little bit vulnerable, but Steve Crichton played out of his skin and just stamped his authority yet again on the NRL State of Origin. So he was amazing, but we'll get to that game later. For all those people that enjoyed the weekend, there was bits of drizzle here and there. There were some amazing games that went. Well, my hapless Knights, they really need to do some soul searching. They needed to do some soul searching a couple of weeks ago, and then they had a cracking game against South, and then came out on the weekend and blew a 20-0 lead. But we'll get over these games shortly. Let's start off with the first match, which was the Thursday match, and it was Parramatta 16 being snoggled by the Dolphins. Firstly, I'd like to say a big hello whilst we're on episode 18. A big hello to a big Rabbitoh fan. I saw how happy he was today. Arthur, well done, buddy. You're a champion. He's got a few neck problems at the moment. We've been swimming together for quite some time now, and we do our training in the mornings. And we always talk about the Rabbitohs and we talk about my hapless Knights. In any case, he was very, very excited after South caused a massive boil-over with Latrell Mitchell on the weekend. But we're going to get to those matches. Let's get this one started. A big hello to Steve Lummy as well. He would have been devastated the way Canberra lost. And a big hello to all the gents on the Monster Tipping Cup, Scotty and Peter Connors. But we'll have a look at the stats and see where things went good and where things went bad and how important some of these stats read into the game and the results. It was a tight one. I always thought it was going to be tight. I said to you when we were doing the anytime try scorers and the margins, take both sides 1 to 12. And I'm glad you did, because it was right down to the wire. The try scorers of Bailey Simons, and I've just realised we had him 1 or 2 games ago to go over, and he went over for Parramatta in the 27th minute. The one that killed me the most, and you guys know it, was when I said I'm leaving out Jack Bostock this week. And Jack Bostock scored in the 11th minute. I'm just going, no. Look, he wasn't that much value anyway, but it's just, I told you, as soon as I don't play him, he's actually going to score. And that's what happened in the 11th minute. So the 22nd minute, when Bailey Sobenson went over after Bostock, I go, no. It's going to be one of those games. I just thought, no. I had to wait to the 72nd minute to get one of my big bankers up, and one of your bankers, if you followed the tips, Dylan Brown, and that was a freaking great try. I actually thought I was going to get up in the last dying seconds with that break by the Fox, and it just all went pear-shaped. We had Connolly Lemuelu, and so he scored in the 60th minute, and Herbie Farnworth in the 64th. So we got a couple of collects off that game, but we truly missed out by not having Bailey Simonson as our 4th and 5th leg, along with Jack Bostock. We needed a. Who did we go for? I know we went for one of the wingers. Anyway, one of the centres, and he let us down. But as it was, the conversions were 3 out of 3 for Jermaine Asako. He's one of the best goal kickers in the game. He doesn't miss wherever he is. And Sean Russell was really the difference for mine between Parramatta at least taking the game into extra time and winning. He only got 1 from 3 out of shocking night with the boot. And the penalty goals, he kicked 1 penalty goal, but that was easy enough. Half-time was 6-4, so there was nothing really in it. And just looking at the possession rate here, 52% to Parramatta and 48% to the Dolphins. All runs meters, it was the Dolphins that ran a lot more, 1,930, and that's usually a key statistic here, and only 1,887 for Parramatta. The kicks were 27, a lot better kicking game from the Dolphins, over 21 kicks to Parramatta. Kicking meters, surprisingly more for Parramatta, 761, but obviously Dolphins did it a little bit more with it, and kicking meters only 698 for the Dolphins. Tackles made. Wasn't too much in it, but surprisingly enough, Dolphins had to do another 21 more tackles, 391 and 370 for Parramatta. The missed tackles, 33 to Parramatta and 37 to Dolphins. So a few wayward shenanigans there with some of the stats, but they just held the ball better, Dolphins. Parramatta are still getting used to themselves. All these new players injected into the game. Even Addo Carr had a hot and cold game. He could have had a scintillating game had he controlled the ball a lot more, but he played pretty good. Herbie Farnworth, you're never going to get a bad game out of Herbie, and he'll definitely be playing for Origin, won't he? Let's have a look. Anything else to note about that game? It was always going to be close. And we'll move on to the second match now. And this was the one that really devastated me. Knights, 20, Gold Coast, 24. Now, let's have a look at some of the stats here. Dylan Lucas, at least we collected with Dylan Lucas going over in the 15th minute. That was good. Fletcher Sharp in the 23rd. I think by memory I left him out this week, so that really hurt. Anyway, hopefully you guys chucked him in. Philip Sami is the biggest killer for me in any time try scorer. For the last 3 or 4 weeks, when I've had AJ Brimson, Philip Sami's got me. If I've had Khan Pereira, who's only recently come back the last couple of games, Philip Sami's got me. And the times I've had AJ Brimson, and that's what killed me when I had a discussion with Peter Connors after the match, when Brimson basically won it for the Gold Coast Titans, scoring 2 tries in the latter part of the game. Just devastated the entire Newcastle supporters that were there at Marathon, the stadium there at Newcastle, and they walked away with their tail between their legs like I did. I felt a little bit gutted after that, and I'm pretty sure I pulled back from the next game, which was another interesting game. But anyway, AJ Brimson, the time I let him go, he just stands up, hard to catch. Philip Sami, hard to catch. I'll have him next week, and he won't go over. So it happens. Matt Cracker went over the 27th minute, basically Sami the double and Brimson the double. Kalen Ponga was very good with the kicking, 3 out of 3. But what happened to Newcastle once they got that early lead at 20-0 at half time? It was 2 different halves of football, and it was like Newcastle went back into that patheticness that they've been playing with over the last or 2 or 3 weeks ago, and when they lost about 5 in a row. So they've got a long, hard look at themselves and a long, hard season in front of them. You just don't lose those games. Not when you're 20-0 in front, but there was a few games like that this week or last weekend. So let's go over some more stats here. It was possession rate 54 to the Titans, 54%. So they held the ball for a lot more. And what the hell happened to Newcastle Knights is they were a different side in the second half. It was disgraceful. Very, very hard to watch as a fan. All runs meters, 1896. Titans were just running them all over the park. 1714 for the Knights. Kicking meters, 614. And only 548 for the Knights. Yeah, they're really lacking a kicking game as well. Still, there's that issue with the halves for mine. Okay, we have missed tackles, 31. They're pretty similar, 31 to Gold Coast Titans, who missed quite a few tackles in the first half, and vice versa. In the second half, it was the Knights who just switched off. Dylan Lucas played out of his skin, not just scoring that great try, but he had 40 tackles. Sam Verrills for 43 tackles. Most run meters was Jacob Sofidi. I thought he had a great game, 213. And the big Tina Fa'asawalali, I still can't say, can I? Fa'asawalali, 244. Most line breaks, Braden at best one, but he couldn't complete, and they just weren't backing each other up. And Afiano Khan Pereira with 2. Yeah, so just devastation. I don't know what Knights have got in front of them. And they haven't got an easy game against Parramatta coming up this weekend, so I don't know. I just got to hold my breath. Even I have to take the Guernsey off the wall here and put it in the cupboard for the next month or so. I don't know. I really pray that they can get it together, but I have grave concerns. Considering they've got quite a few state of origin players in that side, they're just not gelling. Adam O'Brien, I think, felt like everyone did after the game. Even Caleb Palmer's face, they just zoomed in on it after the game. He was on with his headgear on, and he just looked bewildered. What happened? How did they lose that? But anyway, it happens, and there was a few games like that over the weekend. Let's get on to the next match. And this is one I pulled back from as far as laying all my bets out were concerned, because I was just devastated missing out on when Brimson just devastated me. All I had to do was get both Fermor, who's scored so many times for us here on Every Point's a Winner, and he just didn't look like scoring. So it was Brimson's game. Basically, he turned the page there. So the next game was an amazing game. I'm sort of glad I pulled back on my bets. I think I just had like a 2 or 3 leg parlay, and I switched off and just enjoyed the game for what it was on the radio or the ABC app. And it was 22 South coming back from the death. This was another game. Well, I guess Broncos felt a little bit like Newcastle, and they led 14-0, lost the game 22-14. I'm just having some coffee. We've got to keep that the tonsil wet, and so we get all this information out. Let's have a look at the stats here. We know it was Latrell Magic that changed the game. I think there was 2 tackles. There was one amazing tackle on Big Payne Haas. That was a cracking tackle as well. He was away. He did a bit of a goose step coming down the sideline there, and he caught him with one leg right around the bootlaces, slipped down to the bootlaces. And the other tackle was on the Dean Mariner. That was amazing from Latrell. It was interesting to see the try scorers here. Sevilla have Havali. These were on the second half, of course, because it was 14-0 at halftime. And basically, Havili went over with his power on the burst. Then Task scored the next one at the 51st minute. And then Latrell Mitchell at the 79th with his little... some people said it was a little bit unsportsmanlike, but mate, if you're not going to play to the whistle wasn't blown. He just feigned a bit of a slow play the ball from dummy half and just dive straight over. So you get what you get. So there you go. Anyway, Latrell Mitchell's for your 2-point field goal, it's still one of the best we've seen, and I don't know whether we'll see a better one than that this season that made such a difference to the game. That basically turned the Broncos on their head, and they were horses upside down on a racetrack. It wasn't pretty to watch, but that was just amazing, and just the sheer confidence and a little bit of arrogance where he turned away and waited for everyone to smack him on the back in pure celebration. But no, fantastic. He tends to do about 3 or 4 crazy things. Some of those dropouts, he really needs to work on Matt. Sometimes they work, sometimes a lot of the times they don't. But he'll make up for it with this magic. He's got like a man. But you can't do that in a big game because you're not always going to be able to salvage it like he did. But it was an amazing game. Let's have a look at some vital stats. And these were amazing stats. Possession, 49% to Broncos, 51 to South. They barely got the ball in the first half. It seemed to be all Broncos. All runs meters, 1,777, a lot more to the Broncos. 1555, not that much to South, but it was what they did with it. The kicks, 22 kicks to South, 23. That was fairly even for Broncos. Kicking meters, pretty much a little bit more for South, but similar, 659 to 632, a little bit more. Tackles made, 322, and this is the one that'll kill you. For South, 322, 359 for Broncos. That's a tale to be told there. And the missed tackles, surprisingly, 29 to South and only 19 to Broncos. But it was, as I said, it was what they did with it. They were just tearing Broncos apart when the Broncos switched off, and they really didn't know what hit them. Harrigan again. When does he not top the tackle counter here? 52. More sirens in the background. Ewan Aiken, 48 for South. Most run meters, Colin Matangi, 212. Selwyn Copper, 195 for the Broncos. Geez, I don't know. They really, I think they really need Reece Walsh back at fullback and Cobbo on the wing, because it's something's missing badly anyway. But it could even be something deeper than what I just suggested. Line breaks, most line breaks, 1 to Latrell Mitchell and 2 to Dean Mariner. But the try-saving tackles was class personified for Latrell Mitchell. So there you go. That's what happened there. And our co-presenter, Pierce McLeod, was crying as much as I was, I guess, because he probably thought he had it won at half time. But he wasn't that confident when I asked him about it. He goes, I don't care if they win by 1 point. And that was prior to the game kicking off. And he was devastated like I was. Just give me 1 second. Thank you. Well, coffee this time of the night, it's getting pretty cold now. We've got to expect it in May, haven't we? Let's go to the next match, folks. It was the Saturday match. This was a sizzling game too, and we got quite a few doubles here. This was fantastic. But we had to wait fairly late in the game to get our Hudson Young double. Steve Crichton, as you know, was our banker. He went over in the 44th minute. It was yet again another game of totally different halves. It was just all Canberra in the first half and all Canterbury in the second half. There was some sort of theme that was happening, some sort of repetition that was happening in the Matrix over the weekend. Unbelievable. Zach Hosking went over in the 3rd minute. It was, as I said, Bulldogs 32 defeating Raiders 20. So basically, it was 20. I think it was 20-0 at halftime. It was another crazy game of 2 different halves. 3 minutes in, Zach Hosking went over, and that's when I thought, oh, this is not good for Canterbury. KO Weeks in the 17th minute, and then we went to the 22nd minute, Xavier Savage, and that was a really good try, and Hudson Young on the 37th minute. But then that was it. They switched off. Well, Steve Crichton on the 44th, Jamin Salmon on the 46th. That was a really, really good try as well. Marcelo Montoya, another good try in the 50th minute. Max King in the 57th. Valami kick out. That was his sheer power. He was the guy that I was tossing and turning whether to put him or Kurt Mann in. And I know Kurt Mann's not going to get that much of a run. And as it was, I left out kick out and I copped it because I've thrown him in quite a few times. And he was really good value too because he hadn't scored for so long. Jacob Kiraz in the 71st minute. That was a phenomenal try of strength. How many guys did he carry over the line? 3 or 4 defenders. And it was conversions, only 2 from 4 for Jamal Fogarty. Had a bit of an off game with the boot. And so did Steve Crichton, only getting 4 out of 6. But didn't he basically did what Latrell Mitchell did. He just stood up and said, right, game on. Follow me, boys. It's just amazing. Let's look at the stats anyway. We might find some interesting tales here that tell the story of these stats. 51 to 49%, so even Stevens with the possession. All runs meters. Let's have a look at that. 17:33 for the Bulldogs, ran a lot more, and that's a big indication how clinical they were in that second half. 14:35, a lot less there for Canberra. Well, basically, they barely got the ball in the second half. The kicks were 19 to Canberra, 17 to Bulldogs. Kicking meters, a lot more from Fogarty, 623 and 504 for Canterbury, which is surprising. Birdo didn't kick as much as he usually does. Tackles made, 329 for Canberra, and wow, 355 for Canterbury. So they did a lot more tackling Canterbury. That shows you how fit this side really is. They're not leading the competition because it's a fluke like Scotty Pearce-McLeod believes it is. At least he hasn't called them pretenders yet. Yes, they got baffed by the only defeat they've had so far against the Broncos, but what did the Broncos do on the weekend? It's this on and off, on and off, on and off competition, and the teams are so evenly matched. You only have to be off for half an hour, and your whole side can get devastated when you're up against any side that's got that ability to do it to you. 34 missed tackles for Canberra, surprisingly 45 for Bulldogs, which was all in the first half. Most tackles, he had a sizzling game to Reid Marnie. He really played well. 60 tackles, that's phenomenal. Tom Starling played out of his skin again. He is just he's a work machine, that guy, as far as defence is concerned, getting in there at dummy half and just doing all the hard yakka. 48 tackles. Most run meters, Connor Tracy had a very good game, 220. His try got disallowed and he got held up. That was an amazing defence from Canberra, how they stopped Connor Tracy. And Joseph Tarpany, 171, most run meters. He had a big game as well. But when they keep on pulling him on and off, and yeah, they got some really good replacements with Smithies and the other Englishmen, but they probably were missing Big Red, I believe, here in this game. Let's have a look here. Most line breaks, KO Weeks. He's been playing so well lately, but 3 to Steve Crichton, who basically turned that game on its head. Be interesting to see how they're going to go without Salmon now, and who's going to fill that bill for Canterbury over the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, that was a really, really bad injury to Salmon. We only heard that news from NRL and the media this morning. So let's go to the next match. But full honours to Bulldogs, and it was at Canberra's home ground, so that was a mighty win. But don't write off Canberra yet. And it was very interesting on one of the ABC radio commentaries. We heard that I think it was Huddy Young. He was pretty devastated after the game because he always busts his balls to make sure that Canberra win nearly every game. But he said we will learn a lot from that loss, and they'll take a lot away from that, and because they went back into the Canberra Faders. They've been the Canberra Crusaders the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. They've been fantastic. Yeah, they're still up there, and hopefully they next time they play Bulldogs, they can go one step better as far as they're concerned. And Steve Lammy and the boys. The next game was a classic, and as I gave you the crystal ball, was all about Luke Metcalf, was it not? Luke Metcalf, and he basically changed the state of St George's momentum during this game. It was 15. The field goal made the difference. 14 to St George. Another, may I say, is it now 3? 3 games they shouldn't have lost by field goals. Is it bad? You can't just say it's bad luck, surely. This keeps on happening to St George. And I tipped the Warriors, like SPM did. And, of course, Peter Connis, being the Phantom of the Opera there, Phantom of the Opera House, he obviously wasn't going to tip against his Saints, his Dragons, but yet again, they've gone down by 1 point. Let's have a look at the stats of this game anyway. And Luke Metcalf, he got us our try. And in fact, I only had a treble here. I had Luke Metcalf into Tuapiki. I chucked him in at the last second. But I needed Lika Halasima, who nearly went over 2 or 3 times. He missed the try line by that much. So we were very unlucky not to collect there. So we had a small loss on this game. We got most of our money back from Luke Metcalf, who scored in the 7th minute. But I didn't have Clint Gutherson. Egan, I was entertaining, but I didn't know how much game time he'd get. And the other young fellow, Corey Allen, went over for St George there in the 51st minute. It was only 3 tries to 2 to St George. You know, how do you lose that? Valentine Holmes was pretty ordinary with the boot. And he's been good with the boot lately, so that one wasn't a good one for him. 1 out of the 3, and Luke Metcalf only 1 out of 2. But the difference was that field goal with about, I think it was 10 minutes to go. Everyone's going, oh, that's a bit early to go for it. They knew exactly what they were doing, Warriors. They are really outstanding this year. And to win down in Wollongong, that was an outstanding victory. It truly was. At halftime, it was 14-4. Egan went over just before halftime, and that gave St George and their supporters a bit of hope. Let's have a look at the stats that are really important here. Possession rate, fairly even down the middle, 52 to 48. St George 48, 52 Warriors. 185 all runs, pretty much the same. All runs meters, nearly identical. Kicks, big difference here. The kicking game was much better from the Warriors. 26 kicks, 17 to St George. Kicking meters here, 743 to Warriors. You know, that's how they're getting out of trouble. And they're pinning St George and waiting for that mistake in their own half. 386, that's half. They need to get their kicking game together as well. But I still feel between this, is it Tongia in the middle and the coach's son, Flanagan, I'm not convinced. I am not convinced. And I've been telling you that for week after week. So let's have a look here. Tackles made, 398 to St George. That's what gassed them, an extra 28 tackles, only 370 to the Warriors. Missed tackles, 23 to St George, but 28 to the Warriors. The most tackles Aaron Clark, 52. Geez, he had another outstanding game. That's a big high count there. Hamish Stewart, another work animal, 43, the young fella. Clint Gutherson, most run meters. He's consistently winning this stat, 200. And Charles Nickel Clockstad, 212. So both the fullbacks there. Most line breaks, Clint Gutherson won, which I believe led to that try. And Tane Tuapiki, I'd like to see him get more of the ball too. He's like a little whippet, a little greyhound. He's a little bit like Keno Kenny, who's injured, I think, at the moment. So let's go to the next match. So all you St George supporters, you've just got to hope and pray every weekend. And I'm not saying anything bad about you, but I'm just saying this is what St George do to you. They're just heartbreakers, absolute heartbreakers. Well, look at my side, Knights. I don't need to really say too much about St George, but you just don't know who's going to turn up for St George. Yes, and as I said to you, the biggest loss for them is Christian Tuapoloto. He is a massive loss in the back line there, as far as I'm concerned. And I've tipped against them, and I've lost once, but I've won like 3 times against them this season. So the next match was phenomenal. It was in the night time. I actually, after missing out on that Warriors game, I pulled my bets back and I just had a little 3-leg parlay, which I don't usually have. I always have your doubles, the double with the standout. But I just wanted to go. I was really the double with the standout. But I just wanted to go. I was really tired. I went to bed and I had the ABC radio listening app coming through the phone, and what I heard was just amazing. I sort of fell asleep for half the match. I missed the Dearden try, and that was a phenomenal try to the Cowboys. It ended up 30-all. They couldn't split each other after the golden point, and it was up in the Queensland Country Bank stadium there at Townsville. So they had the advantage there over the Panthers. Panthers turned up to play, though, and it was such an even game, and I think we'll find that out through the stats. Let's have a look at the tries here. The first try, it was Papa Ali'i, went over in the 5th minute to the Penrith Panthers. And then we had Jeremiah Nanai. That was an amazing try. That was in the 15th minute. Then in the 21st, Luke Garner went over. And I said to you guys that he'd be a big asset for Penrith. And he missed a game or two. And when he came back, he scored a double here in the 27th minute. And then in the 45th minute in the second half, Jake Clifford. This is the one that killed me, because I had Jake Clifford going for maybe 3 or 4 of our 3-leg parlays, and he wouldn't go over in the previous game. I left him out of the treble in this game, and we had Tom Dearden, who went over in the 73rd minute. That was the try of the game, if you ask me. A sizzling try. That was just pure brilliance, and I think Purdue was involved in it as well. Just an amazing player, Tom Dearden. He is playing out of his skin, and he's one of my favourites, and we always have him in the anytime try scorer. We didn't collect only spent $3 on this match, and we didn't collect as we didn't have Blaze Talagi, Jenkins, Garner, or Papali'i for Penrith. Scott Drinkwater, he was amazing and was involved in that Dearden try, which brought North Queensland back into the match. It looked like Panthers were just holding on by the bare minimums. Let's looking at if anyone had a shot here for the 2-point field goal. Yeah, it looked like the Cowboys had 2 shots at the 2-point field goal the 1-point field goal, and one, of course, because of the golden point. But someone had a go. Was it here? None from 2. Yeah, none from 2. There was 2 attempts. That's what I was looking at. The 2-point field goal for the Cowboys, and no attempts for Penrith. They actually in golden point when they stopped. What's his name? Nathan Cleary. That was a really, really good charge down. And they couldn't decide in the end. No one could get close enough to that post. And I think Clifford's one went a bit sideways as well. At halftime, it was 18-12. So Cowboys had registered that they were not going to lay down against the Penny Panthers. And let's have a look here. The possession rate was 53% to Panthers, 47 to Cowboys. All runs meters, 1,848 to Panthers, 1,765 to Cowboys. The kicks here, 23 to Cowboys. Didn't have a great kicking game. And Cleary with the boot, 30 to kicks, a lot more, and caused a lot of havoc. Kicking meters, 659 to the Cowboys, 880, yet again, Cleary for the Penny Panthers. Tackles made, 363. Wait for this stat, 363 for Panthers, 405 for Cowboys. That shows you how fit the Cowboys are to not get beaten in this match. Missed tackles, 42 for the Cowboys and only 30 for the Penny Panthers. So they couldn't convert those breaks, the line breaks. So most tackles, Reece Robinson, an absolute workhorse animal, 53. He tops the tackle count every week, and he's solidified his spot in the Origin side for sure. Mitch Kenny, what did I say to you? Watch out, guys that are tipping against Penrith. Mitch Kenny's back. Great defender, 46. Most run meters, Robert Darby, 200. Brian To'o, who's going to need 2 or 3 runs, I believe, to come into that magic way that Brian To'o plays. I think, although he looked pretty fit, you've got to give these players 3 or 4 runs back from a spell like a racehorse. Robert Darby, 2 line breaks, and Luke Garner, 1 line break for which one of them resulted in a try to the Penny Panthers. So overall, that was just an amazing match. To get up and watch the extended highlights, it was just body and nail stuff on the edge of your seat. Just a great way to finish Saturday nights. Let's go into the Sunday games. The last 2 games we're going to wrap up here. I think Thursday we haven't got normal NRL. We've got NRLW State of Origin number 2, which is held in Sydney. Now, Scotty Pearce-McLeod's already jumped on the bandwagon onto saying that New South Wales will win the series 2-0. I'm not so convinced because they've made a few changes, Queensland, and you can never write them off, especially in Sydney. So pull back there, son. This game, I remember being out at a West Tigers game with my late wife, Lizzie, and I think the score at halftime was 45-0, and I left the ground. I said, I can't watch our side, the West Tigers, go through this anymore. It's just they're going to continue on south. It was when they had the 3 brothers, from England that were playing outstanding football, and I said, let's leave, and I would have done the same in this game. Melbourne 64, West Tigers 0, and that killed us because we had all of our standouts, our first, second, fourth, and fifth legs for Melbourne, and all we needed was Jareem Buller, 3 prolific try scorers, Sonia Taruva, and they didn't look likely. And I chucked in Terrell May as a late banker, and not even that was any good. He had one of his worst matches, and he'd admit that. But it was just all one-way traffic. Let's have a look at the stats here. Ryan Pappenhausen nearly scored 5 tries, 4 tries to Ryan Pappenhausen. He was outstanding. Man of the match. Jerome Hughes went over in the 26th minute. Josh King, 23rd. Nick Meaney, there was our second leg, if you remember, from last week. He went over in the 33rd minute. Pappenhausen again. Asofa Solomona I must have been having a shower at that stage. He went over in the 50th minute. I don't remember that. Elise Katoa, he was our banker, if you remember. So he went over in the 58th minute. And then the one we needed to finally get a nice collect here, Cameron Munster. Thank you, Cameron. Cammy, he went over in the 65th minute. So we won off this one, ladies and gentlemen, if you followed the tips from last Thursday. Bronson Garlic went over in the 74th minute, but I'm waiting, I'm praying. Come on. I chucked in Dewey for you, Scotty. I chucked in Dewey, and he didn't even look like scoring. Very, very hard match to watch. Ryan Pappenhausen, how many goals did he get? 10 out of 11 conversions. He scored 20 points, and his tries up as well. What's that? No, nearly 5. It was 4, 16. That's outrageous. 36 points. Oh, my God. He scored more than half, virtually half of the winning margin of 64-0. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Stand up, Pappy. Right up against Latrell Mitchell for the players of the weekend. Fantastic. Let's have a look at the stats because these will blow your head off. Possession rate, 56% to Melbourne. I think it was in the first half, it must have been like 70-30. But anyway, it was only 44% for Tigers. They just got monstered, molested, all the horrible names you could think of in a rugby league match happened to the Tigers. It was just really hard. As I said, I probably would have left at halftime and listened to the rest on the radio. Just in too much devastation to watch that game. If I was a Melbourne fan, I just would have been going to the bar and having another beer, honestly. Drinking responsibly, of course. All runs meters here, 2,128. Melbourne and 1,234, nearly half. You can't hold the ball. You can't have that any possession in the first half. That's what's going to happen to the Tigers there. 1,234 to 2,128. That's something else. Kicks 22%. Tigers had an awful kicking game, 15. Kicking meters, 368. No good. No good. And 485 kicking metres to Melbourne. Tackles made 267. Now here's the one that made the Tigers look like they had broken tails at the end of this match, or even halfway through the match. 339. I was working this out this morning when I was looking at all these stats for this presentation tonight. I worked. I think it was it was something like another 10 or 11 sets of 6. If that's not going to gash you, I don't know what will. But the missed tackles were phenomenal. Melbourne 20 missed tackles to the Tigers. Have a guess. 51. You can't do that to a side like Melbourne. Yeah, they were filthy after losing that game against Canberra, and they're going to kill you if whoever's coming down to Amy. But we honestly, what happened was Tigers brought their 3 wooden spoons in a row from the last 3 seasons to this game because it was just awful. Alex Seafarth did all the tackling, 54 most tackles. Bronson Garlic was your top tackler, 31. Well, Harry Grant would have done 50, but he didn't need to. He didn't need to, only did 31. Oh, unbelievable. Jareem Buller was one of the better players for the Tigers, 152 most run meters. And who do you think ran the most for Melbourne? Ryan Pappenhausen, 211. Most line breaks, Cameron Munster, he just carved them up through the middle and on the edges there. 3-1's Jareem Buller. I have no answers for the Tigers. They're either going to bite down on that lip and put this game behind them once they have a horrible video season or a session watching all the mistakes. I don't know what their next plan is. They just have to put that behind them, go back to the drawing board, I guess, like Newcastle Knights, St George and all the other players, all the other teams that got beaten. The last match was the nice collect for us here, but we had to wait to the 76th minute to get our main banker, Kyle Iro, to get over the line. It was Manly 14 at 4 Pines Park, which is the old Brookie, and a bit of a death knell or death ground there for a lot of teams that go there. But Cronulla playing, starting to get their shit together. And it was 30 Sharks over Sea Eagles 14. And it looked like Sharks were going to capitulate in the last 20 minutes. I was really holding my breath. One of my players that I left out, but I chucked him in there at the last ditch effort because we didn't have a bet on the previous game. Or we did. We got all the Melbourne collects, but we didn't get a collect from the Tigers. So I thought I can't. I left him out when I did the preview. I realised I'd left one of my favourite players for Melbourne for Manly out, and it was Tolotau Kola. He's gone over twice in the 46th minute and the 53rd minute. So thank God, but of course we had to wait to the 76th minute to get Kyle Iro into him. So unfortunately, I mean, we got half our money back with the try scorers and then the double. I wanted one more player for the double because he was virtually our second standout, and that was Britton Nakora. He didn't go over. And the guy that killed me the most at about 5-1, 6-1 was Adam Fanua-Blake. We've had him probably for the first 3 or 4 matches, and he got us one of the doubles, Adam Fanua-Blake, in the early rounds with Cronulla. But I left him out this week, and sometimes I'll chuck in Tricky Trindle as a fifth legger. He scored from a crazy bomb. And Ronaldo Mulatalo was a hot favourite. I didn't really want to have him or Stone Street, so I left them out, and he went over twice. So that was the story there with our betting. But overall, we pretty much got our money back. We had 3 great wins over the last 4 weeks, and we got our money back here. So we got more money to play the coming week. But thank God to the Kyle Iro, otherwise we might have lost about $15 to $25 for this week. But as it was, we got all our money back, and we might have either broken square or end up about $15 in front when I did all the calculations this morning. Anyway, let's have a look at the stats here. Conversions. Ruben Garrick really got monstered by Cronulla. I thought the drop ball that led to a very, very important try to Cronulla, I think, was the turning point in this match, because all the momentum shifted to Manly, and it truly looked like Manly were steamrolling them in that last 20 minutes. Nicholas Hines kicked very well, 4 from 5, 2 from 2 Garrick. Let's have a look here. They took a penalty goal. I thought they should have taken a second penalty goal before Manly got another try from Tolotau Kola in the 53rd minute. I thought that was an important thing that they missed there. But anyway, they knew what they were doing. They end up going over again with Mulatalo and Kyle Iro, and that was that. So it was 5 tries to 2. I think they were the better side on, and we really didn't see Turbo ran a lot. If we have a look here, he was the most run meters. We go to the vital stats here. Turbo ran 206 meters, and Jesse Ramian had a pretty good game, 176. Blake Brayley, 45 top tackles. He's usually the top tackler. He played really well. He's a very consistent player, Blake Brayley. Jacob Simpkin got 56 there, or Jake Simpkin, 56. A lot of work there from Jake. But the possession rate here was 54% to Cronulla, 46% to Manly. All runs 199 to 166 Cronulla, and all runs meters 1633 to Cronulla to 1459 to Manly. Kicks 24, much better kicking game from Cronulla, and 20 to Manly. Kicking meters 694 to Cronulla and 631 to Manly. Tackles made. This is another game breaker. Tackles made Manly 362 to Cronulla 307. That's a massive gap. 6 divided by 6, another 6 sets of 6 they basically had to tackle. The missed tackles also was a big pointer here, a big stat that you must look at. Missed tackles Manly, and this is unlike Manly, but Cronulla are a very free-flowing team. They've always got a nice second phase play, and they stand nice and deep, which I always like. They've got to watch out throwing intercepts, but that made the difference here. 17 tackles to Cronulla, missed tackles, but 30 to Manly. So much unlike them. And we already went over the stats for the best players and what have you there. It was a very, very tough match to handle the last 20 minutes because they had so much momentum, Manly. But the old Manly, the informed Manly, they are missing a couple of players, a couple of vital players. But Dale Cherry Evans didn't have one of his best games. And I honestly thought that Cronulla were just a little bit classier. And to win at Brookvale or 4 Points Park, where they're going to get a lot of decisions against them, that was a really, really shiny effort from Cronulla, although Scotty Pearce-McLeod may call them the pretenders. Okay, guys, thanks again for joining us. As I said, thank you, Arthur, for joining in tonight. And thank you to all the boys in the gang, including Scotty Pearce-McLeod, our co-host here from the South Coast. And I think he thought it was going to be a very good tipping round for him, but we all got 5, 5 and 5 with the drawn match because we both got, we had to split the points there, but we both got a point each for that, like everyone else did in the tipping competitions. So let's see if we can do 8 out of 8. I'm damned if I know anyone that's got 8 out of 8 this season. It's such very, very hard competition, and it only takes you to 20 minutes of play where you just switch off and you miss a couple of tackles, or you drop the ball coming out of your own 20, and you put so much pressure on your side. So it seems as though there's a bit of a curse on the weekend. If you had a 14-point lead at halftime or even more, like Newcastle did, it was a death knell to you because the other side just turned it on, like the Canterbury, like South, and like Gold Coast. It was just amazing. All right, guys, thanks very much for joining. Please subscribe like Arthur did. So we've got a few more subscribers now. We'll get a few more dudes from the pool. I'd like to have Arthur on here. We can talk all South Sydney, and he can make his tips for the week. I know Arthur's a very small punter like me, and he'll only put $3 or $4 on a parlay, and he must have done pretty good on the weekend with South Sydney. And I know he was very, very happy, had a smile from there to there. And thanks very much for subscribing, Arthur. If you like, hit like. If you don't even like, it helps with the algorithm. What happens? We're trying to build the program up here. Every point's a winner. If you don't subscribe and we don't get numbers and you don't share it and get more people that love NRL football, and I'm giving you value every week. So we've had 3 weeks in a row where we've won, one where we've broken square. So we've got money for next week, guys. So we can play all 8 games next week. But what we do is usually I'll give you the 5 best games to really go hard on, especially with feeling very confident about it. The other 3, you can decide what you want to do with them. Sometimes if we're not getting our bankers up and 2 or 3 of the 2-leg, our main point is having the 2-leg parlays when I give you the tips on the Thursday. And then the second, third, and the third, fourth, and fifth selection, you're spinning them around and mixing them up. So you've got them all with the first 2 bankers in every combination, and they're only for $1, $1.50, $2, $2.50 max. for your 2-leg doubles. All you need is the banker, and then you've got 4 or 5 try scorers backing up your banker. So how much fun is that? And if your banker scores in the first 5 or 10 minutes like Luke Metcalf did, my heart was pounding all the way through that match, all the way through that St George match. But we another freak of a dude, Jacob Little and Valentine Holmes. Every time I have them, they do nothing. But anyway, that's the game for you. There's 13 players each side, plus replacements, plus the bench. How lucky do you have to be? Yeah, we're picking try scorers, regulation try scorers, as I like to call them, the ones that are getting up in the second, third, fourth, fifth selections, the regulation try scorers. We'll go with the forwards too if we think it's going to be dominated by a forward pack. But we're always going for value at about even money, 2-1, to start our banker off with, our legs, our 2-leg. We've got so many 2 legs this year, but we've got quite a few good 3 legs over the last 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. We just missed the 3-leggers, some great 3-leggers on the weekend. So have faith, stay with every point's a winner. Hopefully we get some special guests on soon. Scotty's only got a brand new job down the coast. He can't always make it up here. When he does, he certainly brings a lot to the table. But he was devastated. Peter Connors was devastated about St George. I was devastated about the Knights, and Scotty was devastated about the Broncos, especially the way our 3 teams lost on the weekend. Heartbreaking. Thanks for joining us here on Every Point's a Winner. Like, subscribe, comment, share. See you next week. Well, this week, should I say? It's already Monday, but we've done the review, episode 18. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on Thursday. Get your notepad out. If you've got iPod or phone, please put them in there because you don't want to miss value and all that $200, $150, $300 $2 and 3-leg parlays we've been getting up out of the last 3 out of the previous 4 games. So join us on Thursday for the round 11 preview. Because we're going to need to go over the state of origin tips. I must say something on behalf of myself and a Tiana Penatani fan. She's not getting the ball enough. She's a great centre. Yes, I know you've got Isabella Kelly and Jess Sturgis, who went over for us because they were our bankers in the first state of origin. But we needed Tiana Penatani. But I knew, as soon as I saw it and I asked Scotty, I said, that's not good. She's not going to – you can't get a great centre, put her in a dummy half position, and she barely got the ball. Yes, she's using her married name now as a hyphen. That doesn't make a difference, but it makes a big difference when you change with the NRLW, state of origin, and a great player, when you change their position. So, dear coach, please think about it. I'd like to even have her on the bench. I mean, I'm not kidding in this aspect. Bring her on and sub her for, sub her for one of the other centres. Maybe Sturgis, give Sturgis a break, and so you got Kelly or vice versa, and Penatani. I think that'll win you the state of origin. But she's just not getting enough of the ball, and she's not used to playing at 5'8". I'm sorry, but that's my comment there for the NRLW New South Wales side. And we've got the Blues colours in the background there, but that's the Canterbury colours because they're still leading the comp. Just before I go, why don't we have a quick look at that ladder? Thanks for staying with us. If you've stayed with us for this long, if you haven't, we'll catch up with you on Thursday. Let's go back and have a quick look at the ladder. Bulldogs on top on 18 points. Clear of Warriors second. Phenomenal. This time of the year, 16. Storm back to third on 14 points. Raiders equal but less for and against, fourth on 14 points. Just behind them, one game away on 12 points. Fifth is Sharks. Sixth, Cowboys on 11 with that draw. That has made a bit of a difference. And Broncos back to seventh now on 10, 1 point behind the Cowboys. Also on 10, Sea Eagles. They need to get their act together there, depending who they're playing. Roosters, they're on their way up, I believe, with 10. They had the bye. Back to 9th. West Tigers, 10th. Back to the drawing board for them. Rabbitohs have now moved to 11th, but they're basically equal 9th. Actually, they're equal 7th. But they've got a worse for and against, of course, because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides from the Broncos down to the Rabbitohs on 10 points. But of course, for and against comes up to make our top 8 and our bottom teams. Dolphins now 12th on 8 points. Dragons 8 points. Back in 13th. Knights 14th on 8 points. Titans on 8 points, 15th. Penny Panthers with that draw, still second last on 7 points. And Eels dead last with 6 points. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to Canterbury yet again. And Canberra will bounce back also. A big hello to Steve Lammy. Hopefully you're doing well, mate, and all the boys out there in the gang. And we'll see you on Thursday, and we'll have a quick little preview of the State of Origin. But you know my thoughts about Tiana Penatoni, one of the better centres in the game. For now, it's Axel Phillips saying, love you, be careful. It's getting cold now. Put some jumpers on. I'm about to put my jumper on, and see you on Thursday for Every Point's a Winner. Thanks for now. Bye.